But a lot of people heard about this the past couple of days with all the other things going on. This was not good news for wrestling fans and all of us who have been friends of Dutch Mantell's for ever and eons. Dutch's daughter Amanda has set up a GoFundMe for not only Dutch but his wife Kathy. And I don't know if people know or not, but Dutch and Kathy have been married for over 50 years. It may be the longest marriage. I don't know. It has to be currently in wrestling, right? I mean, unless is Bill Mercer still married? Bob Caudle? I'm sure he's definitely still married. Who knows? But Dutch and his wife Kathy have both had bad health issues over the last year, and we think back a few months ago when Kevin Sullivan's family had put up a GoFundMe for him. One of the things that he'd been having trouble with was sepsis. Dutch has had sepsis, been in and out of the hospital for that twice. But for all of that, it sounds like Kathy's health issues have been worse, and she's been hospitalized. And I'm not going to read their chart on the air here, but there is a GoFundMe for. And Brian always asks you because you know everything about the internet. But if they just type in "Dirty Dutch Mantell," they're going to get it. There's no Dutch impersonators yet on GoFundMe.
I'm pretty sure if you just go to Google and search for GoFundMe Dutch Mantell, or go to GoFundMe and search for Dutch Mantell, Dirty not even needed.
Well, there you go. Well, it is in the title. Play Help Dirty Dutch Mantell because he's Dirty Dutch to all of us.
To the clean folk.
To the clean folk. But anyway, yeah, that's how the kids Google these things. But anyway, yeah, if you've liked Dutch's work over the years, whether it be you're a fan of Memphis wrestling or you're a fan of, he's been everywhere at one point or another, but I'm, obviously a fan of his work in Memphis, but also he worked with me in Smoky Mountain.
When TNA actually had good moments, Dutch Mantell was behind most of them.
There you go. I worked with him not only in WCW and later in WWF, but then he's the one who kept me from committing aggravated mayhem a number of times in TNA for all those years. So, and one of the funniest guys in the business. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because if you go there now, they've exceeded the original goal. But that's the thing is Amanda has basically been taking care of both of them to obviously the detriment of her having time to actually work or do anything else. So, and a lot of their, I've unfortunately never been in this position, so I'm not sure how it works. But for those of you around the world, we have insurance here in the United States if we pay for it or if we're old enough to have Medicare. But they've still got caps on hospitalizations. Brian, if you know how that fucking works, you can chime in. But the point is, you're still screwed over here if you're old in the hospital, one way or another, generally. So that's to try to assist with all of those things.
All right. He was the first guy you managed, and you did the thing where you printed up the photo that you took. You guys together, and he destroyed it on TV as his way of saying, I'm not working with you, geek. What was your relationship like with Dutch before that? How well did you know him from when he first really, I guess with the first family in 81 was a big push there for him?
Oh, well, I had met him before Thanksgiving time of 1976, his first time that I met him, because he came in, and briefly he was partners with David Schultz at that point, and, he was, I guess at that point, 4 or 5 years in the business or whatever, and it just really adopted the name Dutch Mantell because, as we talked about before, there was an original Dutch Mantell from the 19-teens and 20s that was a noted shooter and was a big drawing card and promoter out in West Texas that Roy Welch was influenced by, and when Dutch got into the Tennessee system with Goulas and Welch, etc., that's how that came about. But nevertheless, yes, he was away for a few years and then came back. Actually, was it early 1981? He and Austin Idol were partners. And they had been in Georgia at a couple of different places.
This is a great photo you took of the first family with them and Dream Machine, and who's the fourth person I'm forgetting? I forget now.
Wait a minute. It was Dream. It was Jimmy Valiant.
Jimmy Valiant, that's right.
Yes. Dream, Jimmy Valiant, and then Idol and Dutch and Jimmy. But nevertheless, and yes, because I've taken a million pics, Dutch was one of the most popular baby faces after he switched and left the first family in the Tennessee territory from 1981 through, well, my God, I left the territory and it was, through 84. And then I think he went to Mid-South for a while. But nevertheless,
and then when he came back, him and Dundee turned heel.
Yes, but Dutch was selling pictures at one point, the equivalent of anybody except Lawler, Dundee, or the Fabulous Ones at their hottest streaks. And when he first turned babyface and was really working on top, he was out selling sometimes Lawler and Dundee because they had more pictures of Lawler and Dundee, right? But he was really over. So we had worked together, talking to each other a bunch. And then when we were presented with the idea, I'm trying to think what the fucking timeline was, but basically you didn't find out what you were doing in Memphis until you showed up on TV on Saturday morning, except if you had talked to Jerry Jarrett, and or Bill Dundee, the booker, at some point, during the week, and I was not of the status where when I was first being introduced, I'd done like fucking 3 or 4 TVs. I wouldn't call it to check and see what was going on, right? So Dutch told me the week before. He said, and that's why we had time to do this shit. And you mentioned the picture, that's where this is going. It's all going to tie together, kids. Take the ride with me. Dutch said, hey, they're going to do a thing where, I agreed to sign with you, because when I first started managing, after the Sherry Martell thing, I'd come out and I tried to pitch, Lawler, please sign with me, and he laughed at me, made fun of me. Dundee, please sign with me, and he laughed at me, made fun of me. But then Dutch, since Dutch's gimmick was that, the fucking gimmick babyface, the kick-ass tough guy, his story was going to be that he went above taking me for a ride for some money. If my rich mother's going to pay him some money, sure, he'll sign with me, and he'll take me for everything I've got, right? And again, the people laugh at me, but it's a different goddamn concept. But this is what's giving me the grudge against all of the members of the babyface roster. So when I said, oh, fuck, I'm signing a goddamn heel to get even with all y'all, it was Jesse Barber. We'll get that later. So Dutch told me a week before, we had a picture taken of the two of me in my manager suit and him in front of my backdrop. I think Lawler took it because, he was the only one who could use a camera. And so I had a picture of us, and then we did the thing on TV where, I announced that I've signed Dutch and I'm going to be in his corner. Monday night when he gets even with Jerry Lawler for me, and he beats him for the Southern Heavyweight title. And that's, that was the thing is, I've told the story before. My first appearance in the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum in my wrestling career as a performer was managing Dutch Mantell in the main event against Jerry Lawler for the Southern Heavyweight title. So needless to say, they needed to give me a heads up a couple days beforehand, so I would be shitting myself out there, right? So Dutch, I'm going to sign with you, boom. And then we had the picture taken. So when the match comes about on that Monday night, he's told me, you just stay out of the way, and I'm going to take care of this. And as I remember it from 42 years ago, there was a double knockout of some kind, and Dutch ended up on top of Lawler, but the referee was down. And I get in the goddamn ring, and I'm dragging the referee over to try to make him count for Dutch, who's got Lawler covered for the title. But when the referee, Paul Morton, Ricky's daddy, by the way, when the referee wakes up and sees that I'm in the ring, the manager, and there's Lawler down, and he fucking disqualifies Dutch. And Lawler, and then, goddamn it, then Dutch gives me the fucking, what the fuck, and I'm, oh, please, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And that was where, if you've ever seen that video, Brian, you remember the sailor hat, the yachting cap that I was wearing as the rich kid, right? Well, I was getting those from Caulfield's Novelties here in downtown Louisville. And in 1982, they were like $3.95 a piece because they were cheap as shit. And it had no shape to it. It was just white material. But the way they made shape to this fucking yachting cap that my rich-ass millionaire mama's boy is wearing is they just stuffed like wrapping paper around the edges of it so it'll stand up in the shape of the yachting cap, right? And I'm sweating anyway, wearing this hat at ringside, and I'm fucking sweating all through this match. And now I'm getting in there and I'm pleading with Dutch. Oh, please forgive me. And I'm taking my hat on and off to smooth my hair out. And the goddamn paper came like, you've seen guys walk out the fucking shit house with the toilet paper hanging out of their ass? I had like 4 feet of fucking looked like toilet paper hanging out of the goddamn back of my hat. I didn't realize it. So anyway, then the following week, the incident that you brought up, we go on TV for our live interview, and I believe, I can't remember if I've already talked about, well, Dutch, there was this charge at the liquor store, and this charge for cigars, and this charge at the restaurant, the bar, and the hotel, and blah blah blah. But it's all worth it. And that's when I announced that this is we're going to officially sign the contract. The last week was a trial period. We had a few bumps in the road, but everything's smoothed out now. And Dutch is officially going to sign his contract with me. And I've even brought out a special gift that I'm going to give to Dutch Mantell, and I open it up, and it's the picture we had taken in Louisville that Lawler took. I got blown up to 11 by 14 in this cardboard folder that said to my good buddy Dutchie, Jim Cornette. And the story behind that was, again, Dutch, it buzzed me because, see, now I'm starting to manage, but I'm also going to all the Louisville shows because that's where I'm picking up and dropping off all the pictures that I'm still taking. Because I'm just not at ringside, but I'm still taking all their post shit in the back. Because who's going to we got to think of the children, think of the fucking picture sales, right? So Dutch had buzzed me what we were going to do this week because he was able to talk to Dundee and talk to, Jerry, whatever. And I think he was coming up with a lot of this himself. So I was neither a babyface nor a heel. I'm just, what the fuck is this guy doing here? So I pick up Dutch and we ride down to the spot show on Friday night. And then on the way to TV, we go over what we're going to do the next day on Memphis Television Live in front of 300,000 people. And because I've only done a few of these, right? It's a big deal to me, as Lawler said one time to Lance Russell. So, and Dutch, we just talked about it, came up with ideas because they're going to give us 4 or 5 minutes on the live television show. And the point we've got to get across is that I'm trying to sign now Dutch officially, and I think that it's all roses, and he's going to then inform me that it's not, and tell me to fuck off and say he was only taking me for a ride. But we got to make that last 4 or 5 minutes and make it interesting, right? So Dutch said, he'll lay the premise down. You've got the gimmick, you got the picture, you got the contract, you got the pin. So, and you lay the premise down, Jimmy. And then I'm going to say, well, wait a minute, because if we're going to work together, I need to know more about you, right? So because that's how he starts saying, let's flesh out, what your fucking gimmick is supposed to be. You're the rich mama's boy whose mother is buying him into wrestling, and you're a nerd, and you're a goof, and you're unlikable, and what are your heel qualities, right? And there's Dutch, the fucking, Willie Nelson of fucking wrestling, with the cowboy, not when he was 90 years old, right? But back then they were all cool. He's got the cowboy hat, the bullwhip, right? He's smoking a cigar. So Dutch says, I want to know more about you now. For example, like, Jimmy, you don't like to smoke or have any bad habits like that. Well, he's got a cigar in his mouth, right? I'm like, oh, Dutch, no, that's a nasty habit. Nasty. That's what I thought. And Jimmy, you don't drink and go out in crowds and chase women, do you? Oh, no. I try to be home in bed by 9 o'clock. And Jimmy, you don't take them steroids and them drugs like them pro ball players do because something was in the news. Oh, no, Dutch, no. I would never do anything like that. And Jimmy, and somehow he got me to admit that I like to get up on Saturday morning and watch Richard Simmons or whatever the fuck. And he just did the interview, and I'm just, oh, no, or oh, yes, and I'm making a fucking dick out of myself, right? And we're laughing and driving back thinking of this shit to do. And so then the people can see it coming a mile away, but I'm so fucking starstruck or clueless or a dumb fuck or whatever that I'm just oblivious when he says, well, now, Jimmy, I'd like to take this contract. I'd like to take this pin. And he had one line in the car. He said, I'm going to say, I'd like to come out here on public television, sponsored by Exxon or whatever. I'd like to come out here on public TV and take this paper and this contract and this pin. And I'd like to take this pin and I'd break it in half. And he threw it at me and he grabbed the contract. I'd like to take this contract and tear it in half. And he threw it down. And he said, I would never work for you for 1,000,000 years. And the only reason is different than me than Lawler and Dundee is that I wouldn't above taking you for a ride. You idiot. Stay away from it. And then he grabs the picture as he starts to walk off. And he grabs the picture and he takes it out of the fucking thing that says to my good buddy Dutchie. And he tears the picture exactly in half. And he takes his half and he gives me my half back. And it leaves me sputtering, but I spent money on you. And Lance is laughing. And the people in the studio audience have gone out of their fucking mind. And we did 5 minutes of fucking improv on local TV that we talked about the night before in the car on the way back from Covington, Tennessee or whatever. But that's a way that Dutch could, help teach a lot of the guys by just talking to them and say, well, what would we say? So he was good like that. But anyway.
When you look back on that, are you happy with your performance?
Well, now, no, but for, 4 weeks experience, yes, I think, it was pretty fucking good. And maybe that's one of the times where they actually started saying, he's not fucking actually sucking here. I don't know, because they started giving me a lot more to do shortly thereapon after that.
All right, well,
but anyway,
Dutch Mantell, I guess that's
yes. And again, somebody who's helped me a lot at various points in my career with teaching me or working for me, alongside me, or just in the locker room with me.
Hi, I'm Rhiannon Lewis. Sometimes I make a list of people who make me